guys, welcome back to Upfront. I'm so excited to have you all on the show. We're talking to the amazing Miss Keisha Jackson. We're talking to my brother, Lil John. What's up, man? And to the amazing Miss Algebra. Hey there.
Hey, darling.
So happy to have you guys on the show. This is a very special edition of Upfront. It's titled The Show Must Go On, Entertainment and COVID-19. And these are unprecedented times, you guys. We've never been in a situation like this before. I had the opportunity to go and see the legendary Diana Ross at the Fox Theater on Sunday, March the 1st. It was a show that I was really excited about seeing. And I noticed that she did not perform Reach Out and Touch. And I thought it was really interesting because as I was leaving the show, you know, there had been some rumblings that week about COVID-19 and, you know, it had reached the United States and people were, you know, starting to get concerned. And so I just remember leaving that show and a thought came to my mind that that would be my last concert.
Wow.
Now I, you know, was a little concerned because I'm like, well, Lord, am I going somewhere? What's up? You know, but then I began to think about the type of concert and being in a venue like the Fox Theater, being able to be arm in arm with your neighbor, potentially touching that person, like I said, during one of her shows where she does reach out and touch and she encourages audience participation. But it occurred to me that this pandemic can wipe all of that out. And so just want to have this conversation about what does entertainment look like in the future, particularly going to concerts for you all as performers. This is what you guys do. You've been doing this all of your lives. This is your career. This is your livelihood. And how have you been affected during this time? I want to start from the beginning, if I can. Where were you when concerts began to cancel? I know after Miss Ross was here, that next week is when the festivals like South by Southwest started, you know, postponing, then canceling. You heard that Essence may be on and may be off. Glastonbury. Where were you guys? And we'll start with you, Keisha. Where were you when all of this hit?
For me, I was actually on tour with Yacht Rock Review. And the tour started the last week in February. So we were literally like a week and a half in before it was like, oh, this is really real. You know what I mean? Like you see it happening on the cruise ships and, you know, we kind of thought it was contained. Actually, I'm sorry, let me fix that. We were actually on a cruise.
Wow.
And we were actually on a cruise, and that was Valentine's Day, was the day we left. And I remembered having a slight cold prior to the cruise. You know, I felt like, okay, could a flu be coming on? And I got my little concoction, you know, that I do, you know, and, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't make anyone else sick because we were traveling so closely together. We were going on this cruise and I had a mask on. And I remember someone telling me, well, with this virus going around, like you may want to take off the mask before you get on the cruise because they're going to look at you like you're contagious. And I was like, what? And I just, you know, I was kind of like, okay, but, you know. So lo and behold, I took it off, but I got on the cruise and we had to fill out the paperwork. And on the paperwork, it said, have you had a fever? Have you been feeling, it had a list of symptoms. It was a short list of symptoms. And if you've been feeling like this, like you need to alert us now. So anyone that had any of those symptoms, they pulled them, because child, no, pulled them to the side and basically did some sort of a check for them. And they determined whether or not that person was able to get on the cruise or not. And so it was a 7-day cruise. And then the tour started immediately after that. For me, it was a little, you know, a little scary. I was conscious of it, but I think that not many people at the time was really paying attention because I'm already borderline hypochondriac and like, you know, so I had a mask on the plane. But we hit Seattle, which got hit hard. Like at the places where it was really in the news that these places were getting hit, like we did Denver, we did Phoenix, we did Seattle, we did San Francisco, where that big ship had docked and they just had them sitting there. We were there during those times. And then we got a phone call one day, it was a couple of days before we were in Napa, we got a phone call a couple of days before the actual San Fran show saying, look, everybody meet in the lobby in an hour, we're going home. And I was like, whew. And so we came on home. And it still seemed like Atlanta wasn't quite there yet. And it felt like maybe 2-3 days after that, that's when it started to just kind of snowball.
Yeah. What about you, Algebra? Where were you when all of this hit?
I'm in different cities for sure. I think the last concert I did was in Detroit at the Music Hall. So it was me, Bobby Valentino, all these Case and Anthony was supposed to be on that show. And immediately after we got home, I was home once I started to hear about it, but I knew early on that it was going to be something because I started getting phone calls about postponing shows. But they weren't saying why. So we had a whole list of city winery venues, a whole list of a couple of House of Blues venues that they just didn't know. Everything was in limbo. Contracts were just in a gray area. So when it hit, it definitely hit hard. But again, I don't know that Atlanta, as Keisha said, I don't know that we knew how to take it as serious because we did not know about it. They weren't showing us or telling us the information that they should have. And I'll say the rest of America as well. We would hear about it on the news, on social media, about other countries being hit.
Yes.
So understanding like January, February, we were hearing things about the pandemic happening in other countries, but America as a whole had no clue of how close it could hit so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. We're being joined now by Anthony David. What's up, Anthony? So glad you're able to be part of the conversation.
Cheers.
We're actually talking, Anthony, about where were you when all of the COVID-19 pandemic sort of hit. It was around, I'd say, probably the first week of March, maybe second week of March, that we started hearing rumblings about shows being canceled, concerts being canceled. So where were you when all of that information hit?
I don't even remember anymore. This is so long. I really don't. I'm trying to think. I mean, I might have. I think we, like Algebra said, we had that gig maybe a little bit before that in Oklahoma, was it? And then when I was home, I mean, yeah, it's all running together, to be honest.
Yeah, you were supposed to be in Detroit with me, but you were actually you were out of the country. I remember that. You were out of the country.
Oh, yeah.
So by the time you got home, Aruba.
Yeah, yep. Aruba.
Wow. And what about
you? I had just got back.
Okay. Wow. And so had you heard anything while you were there in Aruba as to what was going on?
No, because it was about a couple of days. I'd been back a couple of days. No, nobody in the world was really, unless it was like in China or Italy. I don't think anybody was really looking at that like that. I mean, my barber mentioned it. It was, it was brought up, but I mean, this has never happened before. I don't think anybody would really think, oh, it's going to really do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, where were you? What was going on with you? Where were you in the world?
Man, I'm going to actually say, starting in January, though, I was in New York. And for a week, we were playing there. We were playing at Blue Note, which is not that big of a venue.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like I caught COVID like the last night of that week of the shows.
Wow.
So as I was sick like crazy for the next week or so, week and a half maybe. And it was different than like a regular flu or whatever like that symptoms. It was like my throat was super, super sore. I had a temperature. I couldn't really breathe that well. I didn't know that it could have been that then because I didn't know what the symptoms were for corona. But once they were talking about it after that, by March, I was like, yo, I really think I had that jump, and might have fought it from my immune system and things like that, because I do pretty well with that, taking vitamins and all that kind of stuff. So I felt like I might have beat it, But by March 15th, I was supposed to be going to Philly, and then they were canceling all the stuff. Last minute, some things were pending, and then all of a sudden, like the next week after, it was like, everything is canceled.
How has this affected you guys personally? I know, no one is working right now. Concerts have been postponed. A lot of festivals, and this is now festival season, has been pushed back. So how has this affected you all personally? And Keisha, we'll start back with you. How have you been dealing with this personally?
Well, for me, like I said, like it was at the top of the tour. So, the thing about touring is that, as artists, musicians, we count, we count that money. Like, okay, the tour is from here to here. We count our money ahead of time. Of course we have a union, but it's not, we can't really rely on anything. Like we literally rely on our talents to carry us through life, most of us, and so that was at the top of the tour. So that money that was counted was like, I have a son in college. I have like, it's the real deal over here. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure it out. And our livelihood is just so up and down. It's hard. Like when you're saving, when it's good, you're saving for that yearly drought that happens when people are not spending so much money, and then there's a climb. So we kind of know, like, March, February is kind of when like festival season starts and the work starts to pick up. And so this is the time period that you are waiting on shut down. So, but most of us independently, we haven't been part of that big machine ever, or if in a long time. So we're used to, we're used to finding creative ways to survive, and we all have like little niches that we kind of, this kind of what we do. But yeah, it's a thing, because I think the unknown is the hardest part. Just not knowing how long I'm going to have to kind of, you know what I'm saying? That's the hardest part.
Yeah, we make most of our money off of live shows. I mean, if I can speak for most of us in here, like, that's our bread and butter are the shows. Of course, cats make money off their record sales and things like that. Algebra sells her lipstick,
Come through.
But
candles, the whole nine.
That's
right.
Our money is the live shows.